going live. Hey guys, so we're doing a little test. We're about to go live, but we're just trying to see
if everything's working out properly.
Working like shit. Alright, so I got an alert for YouTube.
There's also a very other simple but important shot here. Connects this 50-50. It's a good confrontational act.
Oh, are we live right now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's YouTube. You're on YouTube.
There's also a very other simple but important shot here. Connects this 50-50.
Turn off the sound of the traffic on the...
We're live right now.
Are we live right now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's YouTube. You're on YouTube. There's also a very other simple but important shot here. Connects this 50-50.
Turn off the... Where are you listening to? Sound of the traffic.
Really? It's just a little delayed.
Oh, okay.
But we are not live on YouTube.
We are live on YouTube.
I mean, we're not live on Facebook.
Oh, well, whatever.
Ba-da-da-da-da.
That'll just have to be a problem that we settle for another day.
Okay.
Are you putting up a thing about it now?
Yes.
Is your Twitter working, by the way?
Yeah.
Mine's not working. I uninstalled it and reinstalled it and did the whole thing. And so I get to watch the State of the Union without Twitter telling me what to think.
No.
Secretly, somewhere, I imagine that Paul Ryan yawning is a big thing. Because at like one point during the State of the Union, you could see him like breaking out into a yawn, but he like tried to fight it. How you doing, Myra?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Wait, are you guys on?
We're live on the internet right now. Say hi to everybody.
So you are
Oh no! I was trying so hard to be quiet.
That's only after we actually start.
Yeah. Right now, people are just sort of mulling about coming in.
Okay. Oh wait, let me get the list back.
Do you want to mute the phone?
Yes, please.
I didn't even think about that.
Hey.
The mic is muted.
There we go.
No more interruptions from Google today. Alright.
Is Rachel into the bathroom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we wait till she gets out?
Yeah, might as well, so we don't have to worry about that. Are you guys doing something still?
Yeah, we're just gonna go to the fire pit.
It's a nice night for that.
Yeah, it is. Lunchtime was kind of weird though, because it was kind of overcast, but it was really hot.
It's been hot. It's not a couple of days.
I barely got to go outside, so you guys have to tell me.
Spring has finally arrived in Los Angeles.
It'll be summer in 2 days.
How was the new Taco Tuesday?
I really like the spot, but they don't have any drinks there. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we were thinking about going somewhere else, and then we were just gonna check out this hotel, but me and Rachel were like, we're not gonna pay $18 for a drink.
No.
So we picked up a bottle of wine. But the tacos are really good.
I said you have to pee really bad.
Oh yeah.
That's
only live for the entire world to see.
Yeah, we are on the internet right now.
Yes, tacos are very good. We'll have to email that girl so she can have. Yeah, they're very friendly in the group. Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about little tiny problems right now. If we're live on YouTube, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm just while we're waiting for them to get out, might as well.
Just be a quick moment while Rachel gets some wine glasses. Retires in the fire pit.
Here, here's a glass for you. Mm-hmm. We can pour it out. See, the tacos are really good.
Nice.
Yeah. They're really hard. It's all like butter sauce, and they're really good.
As good as Roberto's.
Those steak ones, I don't know. Nothing will beat his steak on the grill.
Indeed, that makes
No. But I did have a steak one. It was good. Definitely not as good.
Not his carne asada.
The owner came out and everything. He was a really nice guy. He gave us like free dessert and everything.
What dessert?
It was like these ice cream bars.
Oh wow, look at you.
What?
Getting free desserts.
What happens with the ladies are by the
Yeah. I never get free desserts.
I do.
They go like, hey, you ugly, get out of here. Scaring away the real customers.
I think the meetup, the organizer knew him though, right? Yeah, it seems like she did. Yeah. Because she introduced the owner to everyone. It's really nice. Remember, I would say he's probably like in his late to early 40s. Yeah. Well, late 30s to early 40s.
Come on, hurry up so we can get going. It's already past midnight on the East Coast.
It is.
Do you know on Olive Street where it's like a little, there's like a little, what kind of camper is that called? It's a silver camper,
Airstream?
Yeah. You ever seen that on Olive? It's a taco place. They have like a little outdoor area. It's nice. I'm surprised it's my jacket.
The tea may depart, but
the interruption remains.
No, that's fine. I want to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, they want to hear. He wants to hear us argue.
Yeah.
I've got no arguing in me tonight.
I'm gonna leave my purse right here.
Just too tired.
Too tired.
Okay. We'll be downstairs.
Right.
Wait, is she gonna lock it? Okay. Alright. Okie doke.
Right. Let's do this thing.
Wait, what is this? 198?
I think so. Let me double check. Oh no, 199.
Woo! Alright.
199?
Yeah. There. You all set?
Yeah, whenever you're.
Okay. And now, the State of the Union address. This is Corin, this is the Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 199 of the Anthem podcast. It is 9:17 Pacific. That makes it 12:17 Eastern. And the Anthem is live from coast to coast, broadcasting from the beautiful #OTALO studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Welcome.
And you know what PM means? It means that it's an OTA after dark. It's happening right now.
But luckily for you all, we are not going to interrupt us every minute and a half with a round of applause, although we do have a studio audience in with us tonight. But we're going to ask you to keep your applause to a minimum.
Let's give it a hand. Yeah.
That's the last one. The last one for tonight.
We're going to ask our crowd to be quiet now.
Like the debate.
Let the candidates debate.
Right, only really. Anyway, so wherever you check us out, whether that's on YouTube at youtube.com/OTheAnthem, or hey, maybe you go over to Facebook, facebook.com/OTheAnthem, or maybe it's on Twitter at OTheAnthem, or Instagram at OTheAnthem. So make sure you're following us on our social media, where you can get constant updates from us, as well as notification that the new episode is live. And of course, if you want to be part of the show, just join us for our live recordings on YouTube generally, and you can chat with us in the chat there, and we'll read out comments to the podcast. Or you can send a call or a text to the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's the number again?
443-219-7595. So we're broadcasting a little late this week, obviously. Generally, the episode would be up on Tuesday, but here we are on a Tuesday. Luckily, because we had a very busy weekend. I'm glad we didn't decide to try to record.
Yeah, I think if we tried to do it last night, it would have just been a huge pain.
I think if we'd done it any other time, we would not have been able to do it. And as this is the 199th consecutive episode, new material every week for 199 weeks, we just couldn't go by missing a week.
Yeah.
But we had a very busy weekend.
Yeah, we were gallivanting around in Vegas all weekend.
Gallivanting, you and Rachel did a bit of gallivanting. I didn't do so much gallivanting. But why did you guys want to go to Vegas for the weekend?
Well, Rachel has been speaking to a lot of people who are in this group for weight loss surgery people. So they were having a big annual meetup in Vegas, and she wanted to go, and we made it happen.
Yeah. Very last minute. When did you actually book the hotel?
Oh, Friday.
Yeah, before we left? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, a couple hours before we left.
But, pack a bag and go, and it sounded like Rachel had a pretty good time meeting all her people, so that was nice. And Corey, did you have a good time meeting all her people?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have much to add to the whole process.
Just sitting there and hanging out? Yeah. You might have heard me refer to Corey as a cuck on the podcast before, and yet another example of Corey waiting in the wings to be introduced by his lady. So, meanwhile, I spent my entire weekend in a hotel room proving that what we have always thought is true. That if I could just go and write in a hotel room in Vegas, then I would get a lot of writing done. And I got a lot of writing done this weekend. And one of the benefits we always point to is that, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to just go out for a walk and grab a bite. And I did that while we were there. So the theory is sound.
Yeah.
It absolutely works.
And that Sbarro's was good. It hit the spot.
Yes. I wish I didn't have to walk all the way to goddamn Bally's to get it. But, what are you going to do?
Sometimes you got to go through great trouble to get the Sbarro's. And the other thing, too, I think part of what it was is just the looseness of Vegas.
Yeah.
But I felt that the conversations that me and you were having, talking out, writing situations.
Yeah.
While definitely more inappropriate than usual, was also very, spirited. I feel like the energy of Vegas gives you a little adrenaline in the creative space.
The only way I would be up at 5 a.m. walking anywhere to do anything is because Vegas gives you that extra burst of energy. And I've been sucking it up for the last 2 days because I've been dead on my feet. So, we got to wrap this podcast up so I can get to bed. So, everybody, thank you for joining us. Have a good...
We've been here for another consecutive week. That's all you get.
That's all you get. But, of course, the reason that we did wait for this show this week is because this Tuesday is not like every other Tuesday. Well, Corey's taking a drink. This Tuesday is special because...
I'm doing my Marco Rubio impression.
This Tuesday is special because...
It's the State of the Union tonight. It just finished a little whiles ago.
Yeah.
Rob had to catch up on his way home from work.
I did, because now that we're on the West Coast...
State of the Union week for new man.
And it starts super early. I'm used to being at home and being like, God, I got work tomorrow. Come on, let's wrap this up. Let's get that little light that Dave Chappelle used to flash. Wrap it up.
Yo, B, read the sign. Wrap it up.
Yeah, so instead, it started before I even got off work and finished right as I stepped outside to go leave. I turned it on, and he was doing the goodbyes, and that was the end of the speech. I'm like, all right, so I missed the whole thing. But what were your thoughts overall about the State of the Union?
My first thought is that Stephen Miller is a horrible writer. It's so hard to listen to the things that he writes and Trump delivering it too. Because if there's any combination that equals boredom more in my life, It's Stephen Miller writing and Donald Trump reading off a teleprompter. It's like a combination. It's like paint drying. It's the worst. It's so boring, and you can tell it was so boring because even Paul Ryan was yawning throughout the course of it.
And it's boring, and it said so little, and then when he did say things, it was, how can I damage America next? Let's count the ways that we can damage. So the other problem I had is this. It's hard to skip forward in it. I watched the entire thing because you never know when it's actually going to start. They take...
I literally, at one point, it seems like he was just doing his boring part of the, Apple's keynotes are like this too. You can usually figure out like when the boring part of the speech is,
right?
And that's when you can cut out for like 5 minutes. And he was going on about something, and I was just like, all right, well, I got a minute. So I stepped outside, and I came back in after I smoked a cigarette, and he was just like, and that's my plan for illegal immigration. I was just like, God damn it, I missed it. Thankfully, I heard it later when you came back.
Yeah.
On the same part. I was like, oh, I get to hear this part now.
Yeah, it was an extremely... So first of all, when you do elect me supreme leader and president for... Benevolent dictator, yes. Here's my first promise to you.
Presidente for life.
I am going to make sure that no interruptions happen during the State of the Union address. Because that speech was like 25 minutes long. And it was interrupted by 10,000 breaks for clapping. Oh. And Trump's not the one to do this because he can't remember where he left off. So, like, at one point, he's thanking someone up in the gallery. They give him a round of applause, and then he's like, "Thank you for that." And then there's another round of applause. Yeah. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is the worst."
The other thing too is that Trump has, I mean, it's always been an imperfect system because when Democrats hold the House or the Senate, and you got Obama up there, then they save the extra long applause for something that he does too.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I've never cared if anyone talks to you about like how long the longest applause of the night was, and like it's all bullshit. Yeah. They all decided beforehand, like, we're really going to clap for the guests, like we're special extra long claps for the guests.
Right. Military, the cops up there, everybody stand up and just clap for an extra long time.
And Trump too would, I think he has a pretty good sense of it.
Yeah.
Where he could feel the clap or the applause dying down a little bit, and that's when he would join in with the clap in front of the mic and pick up a little bit for an extra 20 seconds or whatever. Like,
by the way, has any president ever clapped along with the gallery when they clapped?
Not that I can think of, but like I said, he was. It's clear he was trying to keep things.
Yeah, I just remember there are several times when Obama didn't clap, but another thing that Trump does is he does this thing where while he's talking and he makes a point and then...
Yeah.
Okay, and now we can move on. And so, like, that's not a thing that happens during the State of the Union. It's... By the way, that was a very visual gag. If you want to check that out, make sure you go to youtube.com/the Anthem to check out the video version so you can see exactly what I did. But there is... I've never seen anybody do that. And like Obama, what he would do is that would be the opportunity for him to put his hands up on the lectern and then collect himself a bit. So he'd say, make a point, and back into the speech. Because I'm keeping my eyes on, well, the teleprompters and the crowd, but I'm not letting them shower me with praise. And if you want to get a good idea of other leaders who've done this, look for videos of, I don't know, Joseph Stalin, Mao, Kim Jong-il, Hitler. These are people who, when giving speeches, and by the way, I don't want to be the guy who's comparing Trump to Hitler, because they're very different people. Trump's probably worse. And he steps back from the mic the way that it's almost like he's watching Hitler videos from the 1930s, with the like, and we're going to make this point very strongly.
Superhero pose.
And his superhero pose is the nose up to get rid of the double chin. I got you. I understand that. But then the arms at the side, and then exactly like you said, right when it starts to die down.
Yeah. Just get that last little...
Get a little burst.
Last little roll going.
And usually presidents don't feel like they need to do that because what they're saying is of such substance that everyone's going to want to hear it. But not this speech. Not so much.
See, I think the main distinguisher between a Trump State of the Union and almost every other State of the Union is that a lot of presidents will take the opportunity to mention 2 or 3 things that are troubling America.
Right.
They want to obviously support or talk about all the good that they've done, or that them and their Democratic colleagues are done, or Republican colleagues have done. But you would get, at some point during like a Bush speech, you would get him saying like, and I feel for the poor in America. Like,
yeah.
He'd be like, it's a horrible problem. We're trying to deal with it. And like, he'd go into like, it's never been harder for somebody to go from making $15,000 a year to $30,000 a year. And that could be the difference that bridges the gap.
Yeah.
And like, even though his plan to deal with this is not actually a plan to deal with it, at least he would talk about, these 3 horrible things that are currently going on. Like, Trump, just didn't even touch it. Like, nothing is wrong right now.
Yeah.
We got to work on the border. That's about it. Like, he was just like, I hope we can get together on this.
Well, everything that's wrong is the Democrats blocking what he wants to do.
Right.
Like, he talked about his tax reform for like 7 minutes.
Well, and everything, so this is the other tough part. If you're watching the speech and you're not politically engaged, a lot of the things are true, but also, so like he talks about his tax plan and says that people are already seeing bonuses and there's more jobs and
right.
Chrysler's opening a new plant in Detroit and blah, 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 blah. He's going through a couple successes of it. And I'm not going to deny that the tax plan that they signed in the immediate short term, like the first year or 2, is going to show some benefits for almost everybody because everyone's going to get lower taxes.
Yeah.
A lot of these companies are giving bonuses because they want it to seem like it's a really great deal.
Yeah. Well, no, because the other part of that people forget is they gave bonuses and then laid people off or announced that they were shutting it. So he didn't mention that part.
No. And he doesn't mention the $1.5 trillion in debt that $1 billion in debt we're going to
trillion
we're going to be in debt.
Yeah.
Because of it. I don't know. It just, to me, I feel like my number one problem with the whole thing was not anything that Trump said, because I expected everything that he did.
Right.
I expected him to be on prompter and be good Donnie and not pontificate at any point. Certainly not bring up anything having to do with anything wrong, like Russia, or the fact that Congress can't get anything done.
Yeah.
Or the fact that the government's going to shut down in another
2 weeks.
2 days.
Yep.
2 weeks. I thought it was the end of January.
No, they bought time into February.
Oh, okay.
It was 3 weeks.
Or something
Yeah, it was 3 weeks, and it was it's like February. Actually, the 10th might seem right. That might be it.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, like, he's not going to talk about any of the bad things. So it was just going to be a very Donald Trump is doing everything great speech. I imagine his State of the Union next year will be like, just when I thought it couldn't get any better. Better still.
Well,
like half the America's on fire, and he's just like, it's never been better for 50% of America.
I got my fingers crossed that is the one and only State of the Union we will get from President Trump. So let's see. I mean,
Democrats need to show up hard in November if they want that to be the case.
But actually, I saw an interesting thing here. Go ahead.
One other thing. So here's the one thing that really bothered Democrats. Again, not knowing what the fuck to do with themselves. Some Democrats took particular times to walk out in the middle of it.
Yeah.
A lot of Democrats didn't show. There was almost never any situations where both parties were standing and applauding.
Yeah.
Only for the most American of the, like, it's in this hall and in this place that we gather for the American people and we work for them, and like obviously everyone has to stand and applaud for that. But then Democrats not knowing when to, like, not clap or when to clap or when to, like, do. They kept showing Pelosi, who looked like she had no fucking clue. And did you see? I took a different thing from that. She looked like the type of person who talks in the movie. Okay, like, who's that guy? What's this all about?
See, now I took from that.
Tom Hanks is in this movie.
I took from that something different. That she was like the girl in the front of the class who tattles on everyone, and she was like, "Let me see one of you clapping." All right.
I also did today. Got to see a Nancy Pelosi attack ad.
Okay.
I was excited about this because now that I'm in California, I get to see these types of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not directing at me because I'm not from Northern California, but we can still enjoy it.
You guys should still vote her out, by the way. Still do that.
But the basic idea was they were talking about how the tax plan was so great, and then it shows her like saying the things like, it's stupid. It's just a fraction of what they're getting. It's like, oh, $1,000 bonuses, too good for Nancy Pelosi. That. And I'm just like, oh man, it's so short-sighted. So short-sighted. If there's not 1,000 things you can get on Nancy Pelosi about,
that's not the first one I would.
I would not want to tie my success to the tax plan.
My favorite thing, though, of the entire,
especially because stock markets have a tendency to get really high and then burst, and then it all goes wrong all at once, and we are way overdue for that.
Yes, a year.
At a certain point here, the lemmings get scared.
Well, and so I was actually reading a story about that today, which said that now we're at the worst time for the market because everyone, cryptocurrency especially, but everyone is now getting into the market. And when they do that, it builds volume until everyone gets scared and then backs out. And then all these lemmings, when they back out, they cause everyone else to get jittery about, wait, who is it that's backing out? Is it the stupid people or is it the smart people? And then a lot of people sell, and that's what causes the collapse.
Right.
So, yeah. But my one moment of glee in that entire thing was when Trump went through his immigration plan. Because nobody on either side of the aisle was happy about what he was saying. And that's like, I love it when you can't get a full response from everybody, but we can get everyone to sit down and shut up while we get through the plan.
I like how he came up with a plan that, to me, Dreamers seemed like an easy enough thing because there's enough support for it that you basically just separate that away from the rest of immigration policy. Like, hey, we've already kicked the can way too far down the road on this. We got to just let these people stay in the country. Yeah, and we'll deal with everything else from this point on.
Let's call it here.
There's been a failure so far. Yeah. So let's just ignore what's happened so far to lead to this first failure, and then we can go from there. Instead, Trump just comes up with a plan that, like, I don't know who's really happy about that one. Like,
nobody is. But I think he's factoring that nobody will be happy, but that when he calls it a compromise, that they'll be like, well, to be fair, it is a compromise. Nobody gets what they want. So let's just pass this, and then, hey, we can say we did something.
Right.
But it does address the Dreamers. It gives them a pathway to citizenship. What does that look like? Who knows? We've heard that before from previous bills, and then the pathway to citizenship was go home, we'll bump you to the top of the list, and then you can possibly get back in, which I don't think is is really an answer to the Dreamer problem. But what are you gonna do?
The other part, the thing that's sort of getting me about the Dreamer issue now is that ICE is starting to work off the list of people who've registered as Dreamers to start deporting people. And part of the reason that they started the Dreamer system and made people register for it was the idea that you would be protected. Like, you are going to be an American because of this. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as another party decides that it's not going to be that way anymore, then all these people who've signed up for the registry are now the ones that are targeted the first because we have your name and address and
just keep that in mind. I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Baker, and keep that in mind when you start talking about national registries for guns, because the lesson of history is when you start doing national registries for guns, when they start to do things that make you want to use your guns, they come and take them away from the registered people first.
Yeah.
And I did like that
Isn't there already gun registries?
No, there is not a federal gun registry. It doesn't.
Yeah, but there's state registries.
It clears you for owning it. It doesn't say what you own. So if the police were to come to your house, they can't have a list that says, all right, 2 AR-15s, 1 M4, 3 handguns, and 1,000 rounds of ammunition. So if we get less than that, this guy's hiding something, and we need to get it back. So it's just, hey, this guy's a gun owner. And there's a lot of people. Like, honestly, I would be succumbed, and they would come and search me, because I got my handgun certificate when I was in Maryland. So they could come and search me. And I'd be like, hey, I don't have a gun. Okay, great. But if I had a registry that said he has 2 handguns, I'm like, hey, I have no guns, then it could be a problem. Yeah. Like, they put me in jail or an internment camp. But we would never do that to American citizens, right? Anyway.
Like we're reopening Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, yeah, which is another announcement from the State of the Union. And not reopening it, just keeping it open. Yeah. The plans to shut it are now gone. Yeah. And it will stay open. But we are defending the Second Amendment, so there's that. Mm-hmm. And they're also defending religious freedom. Right. So there's that. The economy is growing.
Churches can now state support for political candidates.
Sure. So that's going to work out well.
That's something that we needed.
Yeah. But basically, if you could have just bottled up the Trump campaign and all its nonsensicalness and then just put it out into one speech, that's what the State of the Union was.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything beyond that, really.
I mean, I feel like to give the devil his due a little bit, he did a good job with the people, the invited guests. Were all very nice, inspiring stories.
Sure.
And he did a good job of like sort of setting them up and giving them their moment and stuff like that.
My promise number 2 to you, as benevolent dictator. When I give the State of the Union, I will not use people and their horrible stories of tragedy as political props during a speech. Because that is what that was. You brought two sets of parents, both black, of course, to talk about how their child was killed by an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, again, I don't want to make Trump out to be just as bad as Hitler, but that is something that a dictatorial regime will do. It turns your certain minorities against other minorities. So now you say, hey, I know the police are killing young black men at record pace, by the way. I think 3 per day for this entire month.
Yeah.
Civilians killed by police. But don't focus on that. What you need to focus on is the fact that these illegal immigrants are also killing your children. Not nearly at the same rate, like once a week. But it's important that we keep in mind that they are killing people. And the good news is Trump made himself an enemy of MS-13. So, I mean, there's no way that doesn't work out well for anybody. How many times can you call it a game?
He's been doing that, though. He's been on the MS-13 run.
I think, though, this is a stage.
He knows.
Maybe it is the only Hispanic gang he knows. MS-13. Can you name another Hispanic gang?
Latin Kings.
Oh, hey, there you go. Yeah, that's an LA thing, so we're probably all right. We should probably ask somebody who's Hispanic if they know any Hispanic gangs, or if they're a member of one. I don't know.
No.
Racist. Anyway, I just racist myself. But it was nothing that I hadn't expected 1,000 times over. This is the speech that he was going to give. It's going to have almost no substance. The substance that's in it is just pushing towards his base. He also talked about oppressed people and how we're moving America back to the oppressed people. I'm not really sure who he was talking about. Not talking about blacks, not talking about any people of color. I think he's talking about the white people who are at such a disadvantage in today's society.
Well, the other thing is that he only brings up issues that are so the only time he really brought up Hispanics or African Americans is when he was talking about how the unemployment rate for both are at record lows.
Yes,
which is true, but also has been trending down for many years now.
Yeah, by the way, last year, also a record low. The year before that, a record low. Because it's trending downward thanks to Obama, not to Trump.
And that's the thing. I mean, like, I feel like here's the sign that this is all just a farce. Is imagine you had Trump in a room and you could bring up any topic that he talked about in the State of the Union today and just said, give me all your thoughts on whatever.
Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. He could recite the things that he said in the speech tonight. He'd probably remember it for long enough for you to get most of the transient details out of it.
Maybe, yeah.
But if I said something like, what kind of activities that are happening at Guantanamo Bay are you happy with, and what would you like to see changed or gotten rid of?
Yeah.
Then you see him go like, well, they do many things. They do good things and bad things, and I don't want them to do the bad things. I only want them to do the good things. But we got to do things for Americans and make America a safer place, and that's what this has to do.
Enemy combatants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't actually be able to say well, honestly, I don't really like, pouring water down the throats of people until they die. So
probably bad luck. Yeah. They can't be using Quran.
I feel like at the very least, if you pulled almost every single president for the last 100 years.
Okay,
aside,
sure, yeah.
And said, and that's just for a round number, just 100 years aside and said, hey, tell me as much as you can about this one thing that relates to the State of the Union.
That you gave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
then they would be able to go on for. I imagine Obama would be able to go on forever about like all these little because he's a wonk kind of guy.
Yeah,
and he knows he prides himself on the details, whereas Trump he only knows he's the inch deep and a mile long rather than a mile deep and an inch long. You know.
Well, yeah. Oh, God, this new microphone threw me off. Yeah. Obama might have been a wonk, but what we have learned recently is that Trump is a wanker. You see what I did there?
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
But it's kind of fitting. We were in Las Vegas this weekend, and we might have run into someone who's becoming a political force in Washington. Stormy Daniels, the porn star.
Not nearly as much as a political force as anybody. Like, I'm so angered by the fact that literally sleeping with a porn star is probably the number one thing that would end your career.
Right.
If you were a politician up until
Donald Trump. Yes.
Like, yeah. Oh my God. If they made bigger deals about Obama wearing tan blazers than they did about Stormy Daniels.
The point I was going to make is that the biggest problem Obama had was that he wore a tan suit on a summer day. And we literally brushed by the fact that the president, just before the election, paid off a porn star to keep secret his affair that was going on while his wife was, shortly after his wife gave birth to their son. And that just registers so low on the scale of things that have happened. They were just like, oh, listen, we don't have time. Yeah, she spanked him with Time Magazine and his wife was on the cover. I get it. Yeah, that's fine. We got other problems, all right? North Korea, I don't know if you've heard of the place.
I just don't know what he could do anymore. And really, the whole investigation with Mueller is making me nervous that, like, they could show, like, if Mueller had a press conference at the end of it all, and he says, like, I'm formally, putting these charges in for these additional people, Steve Bannon, Trump, blah, 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 and all the thing. And he could just, off the top of your head, what's the worst thing that he could possibly say?
That Mueller could say?
Yeah.
That Trump actually met with a member of the Russian delegation.
And discussed, like, money, like, you donate this much money or buy these properties or...
No, the money laundering is separate. The money laundering is horrible, but I'm talking about him actually saying, I know I said on TV that I want you to interfere, and I'm not joking. I want you to try and get this election.
He's got like on tape or something like that.
Not even that, just a verifiable witness. Somebody who's just like, oh yeah, I was in the meeting. Yeah, he definitely said that.
Jared Kushner.
Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner is the dude who turns you in. He is a snitch, all right? He has that snitch in him. I can see it. He's the guy that I wouldn't invite to, like, the bachelor party because I'm like, all of this is getting back to the wife. There is no way that Jared doesn't fold under a little bit of pressure.
Not only that, but, like, if some one guy brings coke to the party and then it's just like, oh no, Jared.
Jared's in the other room. Put that away.
The police. I'm like, you have cocaine here. My mommy said this isn't good for me.
He actually calls the police on the bachelor party. Yeah. But that's the guy. Or, even worse, Jared's the guy who calls the police about the pot that you're smoking. That's perfectly legal, but hey, I just want to check and make sure. Just let you know what's going on here. Now, so I imagine that is a horrible thing, that there is actual collusion. The money laundering, I have come to understand that it's true. Like, I mean, I don't care whether or not he knew. Whether he knew, I guess, is the important thing. But the fact is, Russians bought property that was supremely overvalued, and that boosted the sales of the Trump estates or the Trump apartments, and it also paid him back for loans that he had made in Russia. So that is money laundering, and he is guilty of that. It all happened before he was president, though. So the definition of high crimes and misdemeanors has never been applied to whether or not you have to be president when it happens. The reason I go to the collusion is because I think you could make an argument that even if he wasn't president, that's how he became president. Yeah. And therefore, the high crimes and misdemeanors should always apply to that. So we'll see. But Stormy Daniels is a story. You guys, it's funny that I bring that up to people at work and they have no idea who that is. That's how much we've blown past it. Mueller was about to be fired, except for Trump.
In June, not about to be. June was a month after he had fired Comey.
He was close to firing
Mueller.
And
Don McGahn stepped in front and said, I'm going to quit if you do this. Mostly because I imagine Don McGahn's like, I'm not fucking dealing with the tremendous headache that comes with you firing the special prosecutor.
Yes.
This is too much work for me,
right.
the lawyer. Like,
but
finally, fuck off.
So, and apparently, even now, they're still talking about bringing charges against Mueller in the argument that he can't hold a grand jury in room A if he has to go testify to a different grand jury in room B. Yeah. And I'm just like, who is advising him? And God, is somebody saying, no, that's a really stupid idea. We're not doing that. I hope they are. I just don't have any faith that they are.
See, the other thing, too, is that, like, one of the old legal lines is, don't ask a question you don't know the answer to.
Right.
The other thing should be, don't put out a strategy unless you know how the other side is going to react to it. Because there's a certain number of ways that a strategy can go. And I feel like Trump's lawyers are just not thinking about this. They're just putting it out there, and then, like today they said, we don't think that Mueller has gotten over the base necessary argument to interview the president.
Right.
Like, the reason why he can't interview the president is he hasn't proven enough to be able to get that luxury.
That's not how this works.
But the crime is dependent on Trump's state of mind at the time of the crime.
Yeah.
So that one can't be, like, you can get all the witnesses you want who said, like, I'm going to fire Comey because he's getting in the way of shit.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I'm doing it. I don't want this Russia thing to keep hanging on. But until you talk to Trump and say, hey, Jared Kushner, by the way, said all these things. He snitched on you real hard. Like,
which he would.
Goddamn Jared. I knew I shouldn't have invited him to my bachelor party where I talked about this.
Listen, I just needed a cock to hold my place until the world wasn't looking at me anymore and I could get in there with her. By her, I mean his daughter, the one who he's clearly sexually attracted to. Ugh. And apparently told Stormy Daniels something of that nature, that she reminded him of his daughter right before he had her spank him with a Time magazine and then have sex with him. So,
yeah,
weigh that out.
That happened.
Yeah, but no. So Mueller, yeah,
yeah. I can't imagine that you wouldn't imagine that Mueller's step would just be go to a judge of some kind and say, this whole thing is about whether or not he obstructed justice.
Doesn't matter, though, because no judge can get involved because he has the executive privilege, and he can just say, no, I'm not going to talk to you. So Clinton had to talk to a grand jury, or he had to do interview first, and then he talked to a grand jury.
Well, but that was about things that was a civil suit that was brought up before the presidency.
But he still waived executive privilege. Otherwise, he could have said, no, I'm not doing that. Put it on hold until I'm done with being president. But he chose not to because he tried to kill it, and in killing it, he perjured himself. And by perjuring himself, that's when Ken Starr got involved. So it was a slippery slope for him, and probably not a good choice. But it would be a very good choice, Donald, if you chose to speak to Mueller, because the truth will set you free, right?
There's no way you'd lie.
No way at all. No way you'd perjure yourself. But nonetheless, so not only that Mueller news is, hey, he tried to fire him, and hey, he's trying to get him fired again now. But I miss a time when there were three parts of government, and they all worked separately, and they were checks and balances on each other.
Yeah. Now
we have the Supreme Court that is essentially just waiting to earmark or to rubber stamp all the stuff that's about to come forward from the Trump administration. We have a Congress that is about to open up an investigation into the FBI.
Yes.
Because Trump believes that they are acting politically, they're not acting apolitically. And I'll remind everyone that this entire charade started with Comey favoring Trump and putting out a statement about Clinton that may or may not have changed the election.
Yeah.
Go back to our discussion from October of 2016 when we talked about, hey, what the hell are you doing, Comey? Or say something about Trump, too, to even the playing field because this is going to impact the election. Turns out it did. And Comey was Trump's boy until he wasn't Trump's boy anymore. And now it looks like the FBI was all pro-Trump until they're not anymore. And now we're going on a political witch hunt inside the government. And this is how democracy dies. This is how the republic falls when we start doing this shit. And the little elf man who's running the Department of Justice doesn't seem to give a shit about any of that.
Yeah, and nor does Trump seem to give a shit that he's in charge of the Justice Department that he is constantly ragging on.
Yeah.
And another thing, if we're making a list of organizations that have the most Republicans in them, law enforcement is way up there on the list. And specifically inside of law enforcement, FBI it's like a 98% Republican organization.
Right.
The problem is that 100% of those 98% are the types of Republicans who voted for like George H.W. Bush and Reagan and stuff like that, and are not at all amused by Trump. So you're angry because you have Republicans, but not the right kind of Republicans. And
we got to get them out and get some Trump Republicans in. And what does that sound like when you start arming the secret police with only your political friends? What does it even matter? Like, what does it even matter? I know I keep saying it, but literally they are just going to continue to do this. One of the interesting stories I read this week.
The other thing is just like the cowardice involved.
Yeah, listen,
like nobody does anything. Nobody when they get Paul Ryan to say anything about anything, it's like, oh, that's unhelpful. That doesn't really do anything good in this situation. It's never like,
well, they're not going to take him to task.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it. And one of the stories I read this week that I thought was really interesting, and something I forgot about, is that the majority leaders and the heads of all of the committees are chosen by the caucus with the most people in it. Now, this usually doesn't matter because there are two major caucuses, the Republicans and the Democrats, and then there are all your little caucuses like the
Congressional Black
Caucus and the Freedom
Caucus,
which will never take control because they don't have enough people. But if two Senate Republicans didn't change their party, but merely went and caucused with the Democrats, then Chuck Schumer would become the majority leader of the Senate. And they could revamp and make all new committee heads. Not by changing any numbers, not by losing an election, but by some Republican saying, I can't do this anymore. My party is not running this country very well. I'm not going to change my party. I'm still a Republican, but I'm going to go caucus with the Democrats.
Yeah.
And if you had a few dozen on the Republican side in Congress who did the same thing, the House and the House and the Senate, for the first time in our history, first time in the history of any of our types of federal republics, could be run by the minority party. Because technically, that would make, by title, it would make Chuck Schumer the majority leader of the Senate. But he remains in the minority party. Just because you've alienated your own party so much that some of them are caucusing with the other side.
Yeah.
Or, hey, how about everybody get together and just, let's get 50 of them and make a moderate caucus and then fucking kick everybody out. Because I don't want Schumer to be majority leader. I don't want Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House.
No.
Fuck no. But we can get some moderate candidates, some left-leaning Republicans and some right-leaning Democrats, and form a caucus that's 50 and redo the whole government. That's how Parliament works, which is why I'm a much bigger fan of the parliamentary system than our current system. But I clearly, you're thinking that that's not going to happen, and you're right.
I see. Here's the problem: the Republican Party is split into two right now.
Right.
It's split into the Trump Republicans and the more classic Republicans. But the Democratic Party is not really, like, obviously there's sort of the Sanders wing and the Clinton wing of the party. But we've all pretty much just said fuck Bernie Sanders and stayed with the Clinton wing of the party despite
I don't think that's true.
Unparalleled lack of success.
I don't think that's true. I think that the Clinton wing of the party does what Clintons always do, which is to try and adapt like as little of the other wing as possible, but also try to bring them in the fold. And I think if Bernie just struck the party and said, listen, I'm not even a Democrat anymore, but I'm starting a moderate caucus. I'm inviting all of my friends and colleagues to come join me if you believe in moderate policies and stuff that's good for America. And then you get like Elizabeth Warren, and she is even closer to a Clinton than she is to Bernie, so I think she brings a lot of people with her.
Yeah.
And you get like this moderate caucus.
I mean, like, so the big problem is that the Democrats are just filled to the gills with cowards.
That's also true, yes.
And none of them are, like, I thought that Joe Kennedy's speech, the Democratic rebuttal,
right, which I missed.
By the way, done in front of a live crowd, way better than just looking straight into a camera.
Yeah.
And not feeding off the reactions of the crowd. But
I agree. That sounds like it would be very good.
Doing a little Marco Rubio.
Yeah. By the way, Marco Rubio, who wasn't speaking to a crowd, just literally speaking into the camera.
Yeah, and had to take a break to get a sip of water.
Yeah.
Get a sip of Wawa. The Democrats are just filled with too many fucking cowards. So, I mean, it's nice when there's 5 senators or members of the House that you like and think are standing up and doing the right thing. But then it's also insulting when there's, another 40 in the Senate who are just cowardly.
Yeah.
And scared of their own shadows. And even less in the House. Like, you would think that the Senate would have the benefit of less numbers, so they would have more or less cowards.
No.
But no, the House has more actual people and more actual cowards. Higher percentage of cowardly people.
Yeah.
So this is the big... Part of the reason why the Republican Party works is because they are willing to play the game of chicken and just continue to drive the car until they crash into you if they have to.
Yep.
Democrats will always veer off to the side at the very last second. They're always going to do it. And at whatever point they decide they're not going to do it anymore, they're going to crash head on because the Republicans are just knowing that they're never going to pull off. And they're never going to do it.
That's what happened with the budget shutdown, which we talked about the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, even after the cars impact each other and the government shuts down, the Democrats get out and they're like, well, listen, we're so sorry about that. Listen, totally,
it was our fault.
Totally my fault.
We were supposed to veer off at the last second. We decided to go against the norm. We shouldn't have done that. It had calamitous results.
Yeah, so we're just going to give up. And, I made the argument that they got some things for it, which is true, but they certainly could have gotten more if they just pushed it. Nonetheless, they did get out and they apologized, and then now the majority of Americans blame the Democrats for the government shutdown. Yeah. That's where we are now. So, and it's about to shut down again in a week.
I saw the poll that while they blamed Democrats as a highest number thing, it was like 34% people blame the Democrats,
right,
as opposed to like 30% who blame Republicans and like another 30 whatever percent who blame Trump.
True.
But if you combine the Republican and the Trump, which are basically the same thing.
True. Okay. Then it's a much bigger majority.
That's the thing. A lot of people are blaming Trump. That's fine. He's a good person to blame. A lot of people are blaming Republicans in the House and the Senate. Also, a good focus on the blame. The two of them together are pretty much in it together. So it's like picking one or the other, but getting both.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Well, hopefully all of this will result with, as I said, only one State of the Union for Donald Trump. Hopefully that there is going to be a very interesting trial going on in the House, in the Senate. And we'll be able to watch that live on TV, much like we have been able to watch another very interesting trial over the past week.
Sounds like you want to go on down to the Baltimore corner.
Oh, where you get the straight dough?
Yeah.
I'm so tired. That just made my day. I don't know why. I just found it to be very interesting. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, as I'm sure you know, the Baltimore Police Department had an elite gun task force.
They did.
That was
elite.
In the State of the City address was mentioned many times.
It was elite in the same way that Joe Flacco is an elite quarterback. That word just has a different meaning in Baltimore.
That's upsetting. At least Joe's won a Super Bowl.
True, okay. Well, they got some guns off the street. Maybe guns that they dropped there in the first place, but they got them off the street.
They got they got drugs off the street. I mean, they did it by selling the drugs.
They put them into people's veins, but I mean, they're off the street, technically. But yeah, so if you have not been, I have to highly recommend that you follow Justin Fenton on Twitter.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but that's how I've been keeping track.
Yeah.
And every time that I see, it's like Christmas, every time that I see I have a new tweet. Because I'm like, oh, what fresh hell is this going on now?
I am not in the same boat of, like, Christmas, but it's more like I just look at my phone and I'm just like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
What more?
What else could possibly... It's literally like Trump.
It is.
Like Trump. Like, Trump's up with the porn star and it's just like, oh, God, this too now? Like...
But if you...
The stories are just ridiculous.
Yeah, so if you haven't been following along, make sure you catch up with Justin Fenn, follow him on Twitter, or you can follow Founding the Future, and you'll get all of those updates.
What I'm going to love is when the book comes out of this. When somebody's going to be able to take the time to put all the stories of the trial in one volume, where you can sit down and read it all at once. So
we had an interesting moment, sidebar, we had an interesting moment the other night when we were watching Dirty Money, which I did enjoy the first episode, where the guy from California who was investigating Volkswagen's name was John German. Yeah. And there's like, if you wrote that in a screenplay, the first note would be, you can't have the guy's name be German, because he's investigating Volkswagen. Yeah. It's too cute.
It's a little too much.
And I feel like so many of the things that we're seeing, if coming out of that trial, are like getting a note back from a reader. Like, really? It's too much.
There's no way that happened, too.
Yeah. So give everybody, if you haven't been following along, give everybody some highlights from this week in the Elite Task Force trial.
Oh, God. Well, first, let's just set up some basic information. Sure. There have been 9 officers charged.
I believe so, yeah.
That number has grown. I think it was originally like 6 or 7, but then more indictments came in along the way.
And some of them have already taken plea deals.
Yeah, most of them have already taken plea deals. Yikes. There's only 2 left standing. Basically, the police officers have been getting days off for guns recovered. Right. So they get a paid day off just to give them a bonus for finding a gun.
Right. And let's be clear about this, though. They don't get the day off. They are getting the day off. So they log in as if they were working, and they just were not working.
Right.
So a paid day off is when no one expects you to be at work.
Right.
This is where I, as a taxpayer in Baltimore, assume I have 9 members of this task force, and all 9 are working.
Right.
But no, 3 of them are working.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then the overtime is just absurd, where you're assigning overtime on for like it's McNulty at the end of the wire.
Yeah.
When the city's running out of money and the only thing that's getting overtime is McNulty's serial killer.
Yeah.
And he's just giving out overtime to literally anybody who asks for it. It's just like, I gotta go to New Orleans for a weekend. It's my brother's wedding. It's just like, well, this doesn't sound like police work. It's like, come on, McNulty, don't fuck with me.
But yeah, basically, if you had less than 100 hours of overtime in a week, they did not question it. There are 168 hours in a week, so that means your regular 40, you're already booking.
Yeah.
That leaves you 28?
Yeah.
28 of sleep in a week, and nobody questioned it as long as you were under 100. I wish I had that job. I mean, I don't want that job because that job sounds like it's pretty awful. But I wish I had the job where I could just put in 100 hours.
To work. You just have to go to work, clock in, and then watch YouTube all day.
Oh, well, true. No, because they didn't even go into work because they fill out sheets for overtime.
Oh.
So there was one of the most funny stories that I heard was that a guy was doing renovations on his house, and the guy who was testifying was like, "Yeah, we saw him like 1 day a week." While he was renovating his house, but he was working full shifts and overtime all of that time. Working it.
Yeah.
Getting paid for it. I think that same guy made $77,000 as a base salary and $81,000 in overtime in 1 year. So more overtime than his actual salary. And nobody batted an eye. That's just what they did.
Yeah.
So this is the funny part of the stories where you're like, well, not funny, haha, but funny like, ugh. Where like they're just cheating the taxpayers out of all of this money.
Right.
Then the incidental stories to that are that, yeah, everybody knew this was happening. And it's not just the gun task force that does this. Everybody on the police force does this.
Yeah.
And the commissioner saying, oh, listen, there's a few bad apples. But by the way, the rest of that saying is ruins the bunch.
Yes.
And that's what's happened. The few bad apples have ruined everyone. The not-so-fun stories are about how they conducted themselves as police officers.
Yeah.
Like, they apparently brought a dump bag, or that all of the officers would keep in their trunk. And included in this bag were masks and rope and guns, unregistered guns, and all the fixins needed for a robbery. Why? Because maybe I'm working, and I see that this guy is a drug dealer, and he's about to get a deposit of cash. Well, I, as a police officer, could bust him and bring some justice, or I, as piece of shit could put my mask on and go rob them and keep the money. And some of the stories that were coming out about how, like, they took $71,000, they reported $11,000, and the guy lodges a complaint. He's like, oh, I'm not a drug dealer.
Good on them, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, lodging a complaint. Hey, yeah, they stole $71,000 from me, not 11.
And how did you get that money? Man, I got businesses. I got savings. I don't believe in banks. Like,
I'm the writer-director of The Room. What do you want from me?
And the other thing is that, like,
was out.
They would take, like, 6 pounds of heroin and report 1.5 pounds. Just enough to make it a felony with distribution and everything else. Mm-hmm. But the rest of it would be redistributed by them out to the street again.
Right. And the knowing the major drug dealers in town and putting GPS trackers on their car, which is illegal now.
Yeah.
And then not going to arrest them, but going to find out when they're going to get their money and then taking the money.
Yes. Robbing them.
And not taking the money and putting it into the general fund for Baltimore City.
Asset seizure, civil asset seizure.
Yeah. Not like eventually putting it into schools or into road work or water mains or something. No, just into the police officer's pockets. On top of the $77,000, on top of the $81,000 in overtime.
Yeah.
The money that they steal, in addition, like, and here's everything you need to know about my Democrats are cowards remark. All this information, if you were negotiating for the city of Baltimore against the police department in their latest round of negotiations, how much would overtime get completely slashed just because of everything that's happening in this trial?
Yep, 100%.
You would have them by the gonads on the overtime issue.
At least on that.
There's nothing they can do. They're in court admitting that they fuck up all the time on this.
Every cop is dirty when it comes to overtime.
Oh god! And if they did they were supposed to do audits on everything, but it somehow just hasn't gotten around to it yet. But I'm sure if you did a intense audit over the police department, you would find that every single police officer in the police department does this shit.
Yep. So now you lose overtime. Good job. Now your job description is like every other salaried employee. Like, it's going to be 40 hours plus when we need you.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But nothing is going to come of that.
No.
Catherine Pugh is going to roll over, and she's going to take it because she can't do anything else. She can't stand up for herself, so clearly...
She's just a dog. Rolling over and looking for a belly rub. That's all. Yeah. But, so, we've talked about the...
And at least the good news, or at least a silver lining to this, is the, 1,000 convictions that have been overturned or something like that.
And I was going to say, so we talked about them acting like criminals, which, the largest gang in the city of Baltimore is the Baltimore Police Department. They all wear the same uniform, and they all are crooks. So there you go. So there's that. That's really bad. Stealing on the job, not just in the form of overtime, but actually robbing people, that's bad. But not only that, they falsified evidence to convict innocent people, or maybe innocent people, or maybe they helped the evidence along. There's that argument too, but nonetheless, not the way the system's developed. You're not supposed to help it along by planting evidence. And did that as part of their job, when they're actually acting like police officers.
Yeah, and lying on the stand.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's the other part. I mean, I never mind the old cop tricks where, they pull you into the room.
Yeah.
And they say, your buddy just gave you all up. We know everything.
For a Big Mac?
Yeah.
He comes back
Jamal, what the fuck?
I used to only telling y'all nothing.
But I'm saying, those old police tricks are fine with me. I'm fine with, if you want to pull somebody into the room and be like, yo, we got you. Your buddy gave you up. Then that's fine. That's the kind of line that I've generally been allowed to accept.
By the way, the general rule of that is you saying, no, there ain't no way. And cops themselves turn on other cops, which just makes it so funny to me. Oh, God. Anyway.
But now, there's been people who have convictions on their record because of these cops. There's people who are never going to be able to vote or...
lost years of their lives. Still in jail now?
Will never probably be able to get the job that will really get them out of the situation that they're currently in.
Yeah.
lives have been ruined by these officers, and even if 1% of the crimes that they wrote down were good, by-the-book arrests, and they had everything they needed, the fact that they've done this to so many people makes you have to throw all of them out.
And not just the recent one, because they talk about falsifying evidence on the stand. Who knows when that was? A year ago? 2 years ago?
And when did you start or stop? Like that's. I feel like you start with things like I lied on the stand.
Yeah.
Because that's the easiest one to. If it's me versus you and you're a cop, then you can say whatever the fuck you want on the stand, and it doesn't matter unless I have some sort of empirical evidence to show that they are lying.
Empirical evidence that may have been planted against you, too. So you say, no, I don't have drugs in the car. And the cop's like, yeah, he had drugs in the car. Oh, here are the drugs I recovered from his car. Well, except for I planted these drugs there and let a schmuck, who I'll later murder, who's also a cop, find them. So, but, I mean, the starting high-speed pursuits, and if they end up in a car accident, they just drive away. Planting drugs, planting guns, shooting people, and then having drop guns ready to drop on the body. BB guns to drop on the body. And so you can say, he had a gun. I didn't know it was a BB gun, but he went for his gun and I shot him. We've been saying it, and I feel like this is more about everyone, the world, proving that we were right all along. Fire all of them, get rid of the FOP, and just rehire what few you can find to stay on the job, and then just rehire brand new people. Like, we've been talking about that for like the last 7 or 8 months specifically. Yeah. And then this comes out and proves that, in fact, that is the case. Even the higher echelons of the commissioner's office are not immune. They knew that these things were going on. They allowed them. Right. Fire all of them. Get rid of the FOP. Get back the very few that you think you can save, the ones who haven't been murdered by their fellow officers yet. And when you bring those back, build a department around them. And don't bring in the guy who his first act as commissioner says, there's a few bad apples, but the rest of them are okay, when that's clearly not true.
You know, interesting thought I just had. Why don't we use the things that the government is using to spy on us, to have exact records of what the police are doing, and
it's one of the things I've advocated for is to put GPS in the car to keep track of people.
Just make their phones be live trackers. Like if you're an Uber driver, you are basically consenting to turning your phone into a GPS tracker.
Do you know why they don't do that though?
Why?
Because the collective bargaining agreement does not allow it. By the way, the thing that they're now, again, as Corey said, renegotiating in the city of Baltimore, and will probably give concessions. Not the police, the city will give concessions instead of having the cops go on strike. Although, honestly, we talked about it back during Freddie Gray. Would the city be any worse if the cops go on strike?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, I really do. I think that if cops go on strike, then people there will be a sense of free reign amongst the criminal element.
What do you do the first time the cops threaten to or start a strike? National Guard comes in.
Yeah. Okay.
So arguably, the city may be safer with the cops quitting or striking and bringing in soldiers who have experience in Afghanistan and Syria and Iraq to police the streets. Because, as I've pointed out before...
Do you have to pay for the National Guard while they're on strike?
Yes, yeah. They're state employees, basically. So, it's just like the state troopers coming in. Only a different version of state trooper.
Yeah.
But it's not going to save us any money. But, you know what? They don't have overtime. So, I mean, it might save the city some money to bring in the National Guard. But you have these guys who have rules of engagement that are better than the rules of engagement that the police are operating under on the street.
Yeah.
Like, the city may be safer. The citizens certainly may be safer with having the National Guard than having martial law may be preferable in Baltimore right now to having the current situation with the police force. And that is saying something. And the trial's not over, folks. We got another whole week of testimony to hear what ridiculousness is going to come out.
I'm waiting for the most ridiculous stuff to come right at the end. Because
you know that they're doing that, right?
Well, the other thing, too, is that I love lawyers. And this seems like the group.
Yeah.
The federal prosecutors here. Seems like the group where you're gonna lose the jury a little bit in the transient details in the middle.
Yeah.
That's why you leave all the heavy punches for the end. Just give them all the good stuff right at the end.
And what could possibly be waiting? What better stuff than what we've heard thus far is out there? I don't know, but we will let you know whenever that comes out. So
I've also noticed one other thing.
Okay.
It dawned on me during the course of the recording of this podcast. The last couple of years, we've done our Super Bowl preview.
Yep.
And we did the play-by-play and everything like that. We didn't think about it for this week.
Nope, because I'm not excited about the Super Bowl. In fact, if we had nowhere to go, I probably would not even watch it.
I still think that we should put out a little something.
Maybe we have a few days.
Maybe we'll do like a little 3-minute bonus episode on Sunday. Just get everybody excited for the Super Bowl or something like that.
Yeah. So if everybody wants to get that bonus podcast, how would they do that?
OTheAnthem.com, Corey to OTheAnthem.com, OTheAnthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. And you can find more of my stuff at CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, including Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and please subscribe to my YouTube page. I saw a whole bunch of movies and block recorded reviews, and it's taken me forever to work through all. So it's been like kind of a soft opening on the YouTube channel, but there's going to become a streamlined process here too. I knew it was a working out situation that I had to go on, but reviews are up, more to come. Check them out.
And, of course, you can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com, where you can find links to my political blog, Finding the Future, the news website, and the books, which are available on Amazon.
By Rob's Books.
And, of course, if you want to support me, you can do that at patreon.com, patreon.com/OTheAnthem. I have a whole bunch of...
Robert N. Cheek.
That's exactly right. Patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek, ROBERTNCHEEK. I always put previews up of the new videos. It's been a couple. I'm going to put up a video this week, and then we went to Vegas, so that didn't get up. So we're a little off schedule, but new videos are coming. Make sure you check out Rob Review Series on my YouTube channel and on Patreon. You can get a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else, including unpublished writing. So you want to make sure that you check that out. It's definitely the place to go. But follow me on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else at Robert N. Cheek as well.
All right. Well, I think we've done good here tonight.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem Digital Network. For Corey and Rob, for Corey and our live audience, hey, thanks for joining us. This is Rob.
Yeah, I got a little bit more applause.
This is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Now, quickly, Roberto. And that's been all. Your thoughts on the State of the Union?
Sí, señor Corey.
I'm ashamed sometimes to be a part of this. Do we have still volume of some kind? Yeah. So maybe it just switches when... I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Look for that short episode coming up before the Super Bowl. We'll check that out. And then, of course, recording a new podcast this weekend. Join us live on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. Have a great night.